Good morning. Hope your Easter celebrations went well, whatever they might have looked like this past weekend. I hope it was a time of rest and just rejuvenation and a reminder of God's grace and forgiveness in your lives and in my life. Just want to share a quick thought today on forgiveness and on seeing the magnitude and the greatness of God's grace in our life. And just want to start by reading a very familiar story in a passage from Luke 7. It says, "Now one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him. So he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. When a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. And as she stood behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, 'If this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner.' Jesus answered him, 'Simon, I have something to tell you.' 'Tell me, teacher,' he said. 2 men owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he canceled the debts of both. Now which of them will love him more?' Simon replied, 'I suppose the one who had the bigger debt canceled.'" I often find myself resonating with Simon here more than I do with the woman. And what I mean by that is, Simon was a Pharisee. He was, I'm sure, well thought of in the community. I'm sure he had a very good reputation. And I'm sure that inside he thought, gosh, I'm a pretty good guy. I follow the rules. I do all the things that's asked of me. I'm pretty responsible. I don't have a lot of need. And I find that in my own life, the natural position of my heart is that I incline in this direction myself. I grew up a missionary kid. I, certainly know that I'm not perfect, but in the grand scheme of things, there's this notion of, I'm not too bad, really, I'm all right. And I find myself in those times, in a sense that, I give myself far too much credit towards my goodness or whatever else you want to say there. So Simon says, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt canceled. Jesus said, "You have judged correctly." And then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little." Then Jesus said to her, "Your sins are forgiven." The other guests began to say among themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sins?" Jesus said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." The picture of the woman here is just such an intensely beautiful thing. She knew that this man, the grace and the mercy that he could offer her were so much bigger and greater than anything that she had done and anything that people would say about her. And so in the end, what did they get? Simon, he got an interesting theological discussion. And like I said, sometimes I resonate with that. Sometimes I love just, talking about theology, talking about worldview and things like that. And sometimes it's not really about knowing Jesus anymore. It's just about, these are interesting ideas. Let's ponder these and talk about these. And that's pretty much all Simon got. He got a great little theological discussion with the most interesting man who ever walked the earth. But that was pretty much it. The woman, on the other hand, first and foremost, forgiveness of her sins. She got love. She got this intimacy with Jesus. She was so vulnerable, and ultimately, too, in that she got this power, and in the sense of through her through her vulnerability to Jesus, she did not care what other people thought about her. And I think a lot of times, for myself and probably for a lot of other people, we fear most of all what other people think about us. And a lot of times that digs at us, it affects us, or sometimes we just get so defiant and we say, I don't care. Think about me whatever you want. I don't care at all what you think anymore. And this wasn't the sort of experience that she had. It wasn't a defiance that made her not care about what other people thought anymore. It was a sense of hope. It was a sense of, this man here has given me everything that I need, and I don't need to worry about what people think of me. Not in a sense of defiance, but in a sense of pure hope and peace. And it's just such a lovely picture. Which side are you leaning on? Are you leaning towards the side of you're feeling pretty good about yourself? Are you feeling overwhelmed by the burden, the weight of your sins? In either case, we fall at the feet of Jesus and ask for mercy and forgiveness, and it's more than enough for everything that we need in our life, and it gives us a true peace and a true joy. And I hope for many of you share that this morning, and that your life is full of joy and just hope in who Jesus is and in his great grace and mercy.